I'm Eric Anderson. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, Americans found ways big and small to honor all branches of the military today. As the nation pays tribute to veterans, the presidential promise to do better in caring for all who have served.
What are the 5 questions to ask a veteran, and what are the 15 things veterans want you to know? I'm Peggy Pico. How a San Diego group helps you help veterans. Also ahead, journalism in the post-Kardashian era. How tabloid news is influencing journalism.
Quiet in the studio! Quiet in the studio! We're practicing in 3, 2, 1, and our news starts right now.
Well, they are certainly ready. The magnet school where students are fired up about learning and why they're doing better than kids who have more resources. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Leading the charge to keep football in San Diego, Mayor Kevin Faulconer met with NFL team owners in New York today. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen explains the other headline that may have overshadowed the stadium talks.
Only about half the NFL teams were there as Mayor Faulconer gave a presentation on his plans for a new Chargers stadium in Mission Valley. The mayor said their questions focused on the details, the city's financing plan, the environmental impact report, and the likelihood of voters approving the project next year.
I think there was a clear understanding of the tremendous amount of work that San Diego has done. The ability of us to get across the finish line, I think, was very evident, and that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish with today.
The mayor's presentation came the same day news broke on the LA front. The Chargers and Oakland Raiders picked Disney CEO Robert Iger to head their new stadium plans in Carson. Iger will be the non-executive chairman, and he'll be responsible for hiring a president to oversee the project worth $1.7 billion. The vote on whether to allow the Chargers to relocate to LA won't come until next year. The Chargers need a 3/4 majority of NFL teams to approve their plans. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The nation took time to honor veterans today and to thank vets for their service. Parades and ceremonies were held from the East Coast to the West Coast. The president laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery. President Barack Obama says improvements are being made at the Department of Veterans Affairs, but more needs to be done.
If we are to match our words with deeds. And my message to every single veteran, to veterans all across this country, is that I am still not satisfied. And Bob McDonald is still not satisfied. And we are going to keep investing in the facilities and the physicians and the staff to make sure that our veterans get the care that you need when you need it. That is our obligation, and we are not going to let up.
San Diego veterans filled Harbor Drive today for the city's annual Veterans Day parade. The procession entertained hundreds of onlookers who honored those who served. The Bayside Street was sprinkled with patriotic flair. Supporters filled a portable grandstand in front of the tall ship Star of India. Veterans and their supporters clapped and cheered as the procession moved by. There were bands, student groups, and veteran groups.
That's our logo, IAVA.
James Seddon works for Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America.
What these soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines do out in the field, downrange, it's tough work, it's hard work, and sometimes it follows them home. And it's veterans organizations like ours and others that can really reach out and help.
Dane Kaimuloa served in Iraq in 2006. He drove a large pickup truck that carried the faces of soldiers killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, all of them.
You're looking right at the faces. We made the pictures big enough. It took us a month to develop because the original flag was too vibrant, so it took away from the pictures. I mean, we wanted to make sure that that's what this truck is about, the people.
Kaimuloa keeps a book of mementos people have left him. He says they feel the pain of the men and women who gave everything in service of their country. Veterans Day was also a day of recognition for Herman Len Cardoza. San Diego Congresswoman Susan Davis helped Cardoza get a Bronze Star and Army of Occupation Medal that he earned for service in the Pacific Theater during World War II.
Maybe it's harder for those of us who don't have those same experiences, but it means a great deal. And that's why, you see families who work so hard to get the medals that their loved one deserved.
The 92-year-old says he welcomed the medal ceremony because it reminds him of a very difficult time that he shared with other young men under very difficult circumstances.
Combat infantrymen probably led the most miserable life of anybody in the service. But I mean, in the rain, we on the ground and such, and they felt the severity of just being in combat.
Cardoso served at Iwo Jima, one of the bloodiest battles against a determined enemy in World War II. It was an effort remembered by a group of young men who recreated an iconic American moment. A new study ranks San Diego among the best cities in the country for veterans. WalletHub finds that San Diego ranked 6th out of 100 cities. The city ranked first in environment, education, and health, but just 54th in economic wellness. Chula Vista ranked 12th on the list with high marks for veteran income growth. Irvine, Scottsdale, and Raleigh topped out the overall list. The San Diego nonprofit group Psych Armor helps educate and train people who live with or care for veterans. Peggy Pico explains how it works.
The Psych Armor Institute offers free support, education, and training for a veteran's family, friends, employer, professionals, caregivers, and educators. And today they launched a new campaign called 1-5-15. Joining me with the details is psychologist Carrie Rogers with the VA San Diego Healthcare System and Psych Armor's founder and CEO Marjorie Morrison. And Marjorie, what is this 1-5-15 campaign?
Well, Peggy, we want everybody in America to be somewhat military culturally competent. So our 1-5-15 campaign helps bridge all of us American civilians with the military and military veterans. We want one mission: get everybody competent. We've got 5 questions that anyone can ask veterans and 15 things that veterans want you to know about them.
And those 5 questions, can you tell us what those are?
They are, did you serve in the military? And we want to know that. We want healthcare providers asking that question because we know a lot of them aren't. We want people to be asking that question. It's a good way to start the conversation. What branch did you serve in? Shows people that you know something, that you care, and they'll start talking about it. There's a lot of pride in there with their branches. Did you deploy? Good question, just to kind of have, did you deploy? Where did you go? And what was your worst day and what was your best day? And we found that those are great open-ended questions that people love to ponder on.
Now, one of this campaign, the list, the 15 things veterans want you to know, include things like not every service member is a soldier and not every service member has PTSD. And another thing was, it's hard for us to ask for help. Those were all on that list. How does Psych Armor actually help veterans and those who in their lives get help?
We help the people that support them. So we know when a veteran is struggling, usually someone knows. It could be their neighbor, their coworker, their friend. It could be their bartender. We help those people know what to say, know where to send them. And so that's how we get them in to help.
You can connect them. And Carrie, we hear quite a lot about PTSD. Remind us of what it is and how many veterans actually have it.
Of the newly returning veterans from Iraq and the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, we estimate between 10 and 20% of members who have deployed actually have post-traumatic stress disorder. And PTSD is a reaction to being in a very bad trauma. So people will have nightmares and flashbacks, they will have intrusive thoughts, they'll startle, and usually it really interferes with people's quality of life.
How is the VA Center working with Psych Armor?
The VA locally and nationally has a lot of partnerships with Psych Armor. Psych Armor has a lot of courses that are targeting providers, that are targeting professionals, and many of the courses that Psych Armor has done have been in partnership with the VA. Psych Armors are also partnering with the National Center for PTSD to help clinicians get educated about PTSD, and Coaching into Care is another program that the VA has that PsychArmor is working in conjunction with us to get people to the services that we provide.
So Marjorie, this sounds very comprehensive. And the 1515 campaign is one thing. You also have a call center, correct, where people can email and things like that as well as call. How does the Institute actually support veterans and those who live and care for them in addition to the campaign and the call center?
So, and thanks for bringing that up, because the campaign is just to get started. We just want people to get started. We host over 50 online courses. They're all self-paced. They're all about an hour long. As Carrie mentioned, they're all done by subject matter experts, and they are broken into 6 pillars. We help employers. You want to hire veterans, and maybe you don't have someone on staff that can do that. We can give you all the tools and tips from big corporations. We've got Verizon, Johnson & Johnson, Qualcomm, Hilton, big companies made courses for us on different subjects. We've got all kinds of courses for volunteers, for healthcare providers, for professionals. And
it's all free.
It's all free. And for any healthcare provider, we offer free continuing education units too. Doctors, nurses, psychologists, mental health, master's level.
So what do people need to do if you're living with a veteran or a friend with a veteran and you want to get hooked up with this?
Yeah, you just go on, and that's right. Also for people living with veterans, I believe we're building about 20 caregiver and family member courses. Things like how to navigate through the legal system, financial tips and tools, advocacy, how to be a healthcare advocate. You go to our website, www.psycharmor.org. It is all free. You go on there, you'll see a host of courses. It's like a library. We want everybody to go out and take a course. At a minimum, take the 1515 course.
All right, and we have links for that on our website. Marjorie Morrison and Carrie Rogers, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
A San Diego-based petition is calling on President Barack Obama to require body-worn cameras for Border Patrol officers. As KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero explains, they also want justice for an immigrant who was killed by Border Patrol officers in San Ysidro.
Immigrant rights groups suffered major setbacks this month. Border Patrol officers said in a report that body-worn cameras are not feasible for the agency. And federal prosecutors said they lacked evidence to punish agents who repeatedly shot Anastasio Hernandez Rojas with a taser before he died in 2010. Bystanders caught the incident on camera. Grainy videos went viral, showing Hernandez on the ground surrounded by officers. Hernandez's widow, Maria Puga, recorded a YouTube video asking for help with the petition.
Creo que si los agentes hubieran traído sus cámaras en sus uniformes, tuviéramos suficientes pruebas, o quizás no hubiera pasado esto. Mi esposo estuviera todavía aquí.
The petition can be found on the Alliance San Diego website. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
There's a new drug that may help breast cancer patients avoid heart damage. Researchers say as cancer patients begin to live longer, the risk of dying from heart problems caused by medication and radiation treatments goes up. The new drug may help prevent heart issues in thousands of patients in the U.S. each year. The San Diego Unified School District Board voted to spend $204 million to install air conditioning in all of its classrooms. Hot weather forced schools in Coronado to end classes early in September. Critics say that San Diego schools were too slow to accept the need for air conditioning. KPBS news partner iNewsSource created a map showing air-conditioned classrooms in San Diego Unified. The installation money comes from voter-approved bonds. Students at a magnet school in Vista are beating expectations on new standardized tests. Most are from low-income families, and English is not their first language. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero takes a look at why they're doing better than other schools.
Quiet in the studio! Quiet in the studio! We're practicing in 3, 2, 1. And news starts right now.
Fourth graders are bustling around, producing a live televised newscast at this magnet elementary school in Vista. Their program includes sports news, interviews with other students, and even weather reports.
I'm the meteorologist.
9-year-old Elena Gomez speaks English as a second language.
Let's go to Elena for our weather report.
Her parents are from Mexico, so she learned Spanish first.
I recommend you wear short sleeves, to stay cool.
But as part of the news crew, Gomez's English-speaking skills have had to improve.
I learned that I have to speak up because otherwise people who are watching the video will not hear me at all. Everything that we learned was they taught us in a fun way.
The Casita Center for Technology, Science, and Math is beating all others in the Vista Unified School District on the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium tests, which evaluate English language arts and literacy as well as math. Casita's scores are also above state and county averages.
This all coordinates. So.
Principal Laura Smith says Casita is effective with children from foreign backgrounds because every classroom is teeming with hands-on, high-energy activity.
So a lot of times, students, while they're experiencing their learning while they're in an innovative environment, it really helps build their language skills.
$27.
Whether it's writing on desks to learn math,
2, 4, 6, 8,
or caring for fish to learn about the circle of life, Smith says students are fully engaged in what they're doing.
And it's all inquiry-based. So the cognitive load is on the students, where the students are doing a lot of the thinking and the inquiring, and the teachers are facilitating that learning.
What's happening outside?
She says the students at Casita become great problem solvers by participating in an exciting variety of learning activities. Some of the classrooms at Casita are outside.
That's interesting. So our motto has been "No Child Left Inside."
The school has a large natural habitat behind the playground, overflowing with California coastal sage scrub as well as other native plants and animals. On a recent Wednesday, students searched for evidence of mammals and other creatures. Mostly they found piles of feathers and scat.
Ew, it smells now.
They also took water samples.
I zoomed in way too much.
10-year-old Adrian Contreras took pictures for the record.
It's fun. We find a lot of animals down here.
His parents are from Mexico, and Spanish was his first language.
We went over there and then the water over there.
At Casita, his English language skills have quickly improved.
So I'm starting to use it more than Spanish. What is it? I don't know, but it's cool.
He says he thinks the immersive environment helps him get better at every subject. Science and reading are his favorites.
You just learn at the pace that you need to.
And it just creates surface area for invertebrates to come in and kind of make little homes and lay their eggs and grow.
Their teacher, Gail Sorelli, described an invertebrate trap as students crowded around. They placed it in a small pond to capture mosquito eggs and more. Ants crawled in and out of its interior.
The kids love to be down there. It's not performance-based. I'm just down there talking about stuff that I find interesting. You know, certainly I've seen kids who might be really quiet in a big classroom setting, might not want to raise their hand or ask a question, and I've seen them down there get really excited about something.
Okay, what are we doing?
Back in one of the classrooms, 9-year-old Isabela Gonzalez measured the roots of a plant in a hydroponics class.
The roots are 8.
The third grade students were learning how to grow plants without soil, using nutrients from a fish tank.
How much water did we use in here? We used 20 gallons.
Gonzalez says the class has helped with her pronunciation of tough words like system.
System, yeah, system. And I did a project and expressed myself, and I accidentally didn't know a word, and my teacher helped me.
Good morning, programmers.
In a nearby classroom, 10-year-old Luis Sanchez, in 5th grade, learned how to code. He typed commands into his keyboard, causing thought bubbles to appear beside little monsters on the screen.
It's just like basically having fun with the characters, making them say something, whatever you want.
Sanchez reclassified in 1st grade, meaning he passed internal school tests to evaluate his English language competency.
My parents were born in Mexico, so they don't really understand English.
He still speaks Spanish at home, but his English and coding skills are outstanding. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
San Diego Unified School District's Halal School Lunch program is expanding. The program offers meals that meet Muslim religious guidelines to serve refugees in City Heights. 6 schools in the district will offer halal lunches. Last month, school district budgeted $12,000 for interpreters to speak Burmese and less common East African dialects. All the news that is fit to tweet. Peggy Pico takes a look at how celebrity and pop culture information may be changing the game for journalism.
Tomorrow night at Point Loma Nazarene University, a panel of journalists will discuss how traditional reporting is being influenced by non-traditional sources and the rise of clickbait journalism. Joining me are two of the panelists, Kevin Brass, New York Times columnist, feature writer, and former media reporter for the LA Times, San Diego Magazine, and Irene McCormick, a crisis communication specialist and the first person to talk publicly about sexual harassment by former Mayor Bob Filner. And Kevin, what are some examples of celebrity culture influencing journalism, or I should say infiltrating journalism?
Well, it starts on a basic level. I mean, at a certain point in a newsroom, Caitlyn Jenner becomes more important news than the war in the Ukraine. There's a basic decision process that gets made about what's news and what's not. And more that celebrity, that name gets in that newscast more than it was in the past.
How does pop culture, speaking of which, or tabloid-style news, then actually hurt journalism? There's the omission part. Are there other ways?
Well, on a very basic level, it does compete on a very basic level for the attention and the eyeballs of people who are the news consumers. And the traditional media has to compete with that. How do they do that? How do they attract people while still sticking to their basic traditions and concepts of what we would consider solid journalism? That gets skewed very quickly.
That makes me think about ethics. How do the ethics of, let's say, TMZ differ from the ethics of the Wall Street Journal?
Tremendously. They don't have the same basic discussion that you would have in a traditional newsroom. TMZ is all about getting that video, getting that sound bite that's going to grab the headline. It's all about grabbing that headline. So they're going to create a news story or something that has a great headline. And if they don't have it, they're going to find it. They're going to come up with something that's going to get that attention.
Now, Irene, you've been on both sides of the media, first as a reporter and then at the center of the media frenzy that surrounded Filner's sexual harassment story. How did the media hound you during that time?
You know, because I knew the media pretty well, traditional media pretty well, I was able to kind of see what was going to come and help myself in some ways by surrounding myself with people who could tell me what was going to happen. But I knew that once I went public, and actually experiencing it is quite different than knowing it, that I was going to be the focus of a lot of people's attention. So I did certain things. You know, I didn't put my trash out on in front of my house until I knew the garbage men were going to be there. I didn't want anybody digging through my trash. I tried to protect my family because I knew some of the media would go after my family. But I had no clue how intense it was going to be, how stressful it was going to be, and what it would do to my psyche, actually.
And what do you think, well, you were saying some of the coping mechanisms, but it took you a little while to recover then from that.
Oh, yeah, it did. It was, you know, when you're a journalist, often you're an observer. And you're not in the middle of the news. You're not the news story. You don't see yourself on Conan O'Brien or Jon Stewart. You don't see your picture juxtaposed with the person that you came out against, you know. So it's very different when you go to the grocery store and people say, I know you, and when they point at you, you're like, bah.
You're like, oh. Well, how do you think that the media and the public's reaction influenced the story and the case?
Well, I got to tell you, because other women immediately came out and they came onto this station to talk about what happened to them at the hands of Mayor Filner, it really set the tone for how the media handled it, and they focused more on Mayor Filner than they did on the women who were coming out and talking about their harassment.
And Kevin, moving a little bit forward on this, when the panel discussion is going to talk about this so-called clickbait journalism. How do you define clickbait?
Before I let this go just for a second, I do want to, I mean, it's really intense what somebody like Irene goes through. And this is one of those human sides of this that doesn't get discussed very much, which I thought why Irene's perspective is really important to this story, is the idea of just how intense this is to have TMZ chasing you down all the time. And clickbait is simply journalism designed to get your attention. It's a headline and nothing else that's simply designed to get your attention. And that has a very broad meaning these days in journalism.
Well, there is this argument, though, tabloid TMZ, places like that, they actually break some big news, including Junior Seau's death. They were the people who broke that. So would it be fair to say that they do add value to delivering news because it's a way consumers want to see the news?
Value is a dicey word. There's certainly no doubt, and this is part of the issue, and one of the things we'll be discussing on Thursday night, is this crossover. They cover a lot of the same stories as traditional media. The latest big one that comes to mind is Ferguson, where they were breaking stories about people around the story. So there is certainly an aspect of more news being out there being a good thing, but how they get their stories, the ethics, as you mentioned earlier, the ethics of how they approach stories hurts people, and it often skews the truth in order to get that headline. Well, I want to let our viewers know that that journalism in the post-Kardashian era panel discussion is tomorrow night at 7 at Point Loma Nazarene University. More information at kpbs.org. Irene McCormick and Kevin Brass, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The percentage of young women living at home with parents or relatives is at its highest level since 1940. A new Pew Research study finds millennial women are putting off moving out on their own. Today, more than a third of young women have not left the nest. Women may be staying at home because they may not be married, or they may be working, or are working on college degrees. They may also be trying to save money. Sunny and breezy weather conditions in the forecast for San Diego. 70s along the coast. You would expect that. Slightly warmer in the inland valleys with temperatures in the 70s and 80s. 50s and 60s up in the mountains. And if you look out to the deserts, 70s for the highs. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks very much for joining us. We will be back here again tomorrow night. Have a great evening.